I was a law student when I first met her, and I was interviewing for a job at Satterley Stevens in New York. Barbara was a whip-smart young woman. She had a joyful laugh. She was astonishingly candid, which is actually pretty unusual for a young person. I remember leaving the office thinking that I would really like to work for a place that selected and retained people like Barbara. By the time she was 30, she really had a ridiculous amount of legal and transactional experience before her first day at Gannett. Over the years, she was one of the most aggressive proponents of access litigation, forcing the disclosure of government records, freedom of information. She was determined to fight every subpoena and win, not settle every defamation suit. And as a result, she not only won a gazillion cases in that way, but she also prevented countless subpoenas and lawsuits because local lawyers learned that it would be fruitless to litigate against Gannett.
I know Barbara going back to my days as an associate in a law firm. The firm supported Gannett. You notice pretty quickly what a very broad network she has. People that she has worked for, worked with, brought along. She definitely has opened doors for women lawyers, including myself, for Gannett with around 100 local market operations. Barbara was the one who was engaging and looking for counsel in all those different communities. She just really had this ability to connect people from one town to the next. I really believe that the number of lives that she touched through her mentorship was innumerable. And she has advanced women in this career through all avenues. I couldn't imagine anyone who's more deserving.
I first met Barbara in about 2015, I think, when she was taking on the role as general counsel of Gannett. Barbara is a huge advocate for First Amendment law. Barbara's work as a First Amendment lawyer is important to the world at large because it's critical to enable journalists to do their work and report on the world around them. It's critical to be able to have those rights, to be able to say things that some people may not want to hear. Barbara is a bit of a trailblazer in terms of having the career she had, when she had it, and being a mother, especially at times when, it was maybe not quite so prevalent. And I think for many of us who are working mothers, she's just been a great example to look up to in that regard. She's impacted so many people generally, but women in particular. She's shown them what leadership and talent and success looks like and has helped bring them along with her.
I was Barbara's outside counsel for 17 years. I was a very junior associate at the firm when I first met Barbara, and my first impressions were a little bit of awe, to be quite honest. She was amazing, smart, successful. Without lawyers like Barbara who protect the First Amendment, you would have situations where reporters would not be able to get to the truth. Such a core linchpin is freedom of the press to the way America runs. And without folks like Barbara who continue to protect that freedom, it becomes a scary place. Not only did Barbara teach me how to be a great lawyer, but Barbara taught me how to be a good and great mentor. And the lessons that she taught me, the example she set, really allow me to pay it forward every day.
Start out as I always do, lowering the mic. I am so honored to be here today, and my heart is full of gratitude. I'm grateful to the ABA Commission on Women in the Profession for establishing this award and for everything it has done to break down barriers for women lawyers. I'm also grateful to my ABA family, the Forum on Communications Law, and to the lawyers there who nominated me for this award, Rob Harvey, Laura Prather, Catherine Robb, and Amy Sanders. And to Liz Allen, Mark Fowler, Sue Underwald, and Katie Ashley, who participated in the video that you just saw. Thanks for making me look so good. I'm grateful to my colleagues at Gannett. I think I may have had one of the most rewarding careers any lawyer could ever dream of. representing reporters, standing up for press freedom was the honor of a lifetime. But I could never have done it without my Gannett Law Department colleagues, several of whom are here today. We have Mark Ferris, Jenny Ellert, Chuck Tobin, and Bill Garcia. Thank you for everything you did. This is your award, too. And finally, I'm grateful to my family, to my late parents, to my siblings, my amazing children, Reed and Louisa. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to stand up, but they're both here today, and my wonderful husband, Chris. I owe you all everything. So as you might expect, knowing that I'd receive an award like this made me wonder how much change there had been in the profession over my career and lifetime. And I found out when I was growing up in New Orleans in the 50s and 60s, only 3% of the profession were women. But by the time I retired in 2020, over 50% of the female associates entering law firms were women. By the way, I also have in my speech, because I did the research, that Bloomberg had concluded that though these numbers sound pretty good, women are lagging in leadership roles. And so I will repeat that 2181 is way too late for us to be looking forward to for gender parity. But, you know, the question is why this is. What's keeping women held back? Spoiler alert, I don't know the answer to that completely, but I do have a few suggestions. And to make them, I'm going to have to go back a little bit into my personal history. When I graduated from law school in '79, I took a job in New York City with a firm, Satterley and Stevens. Mark Fowler was on the video. It was booming. We had so many cases coming in that it was all hands on deck, male or female. I didn't feel any kind of discrimination in terms of the case assignments that I received. My work was good. The clients were getting good results. And actually, the managing partner said that it would be a good idea for me to consider sticking around to see whether I'd become a partner. So that's all very encouraging, but I worried. And I'll tell you why I worried. I worried because I knew that doing good work for my clients was important, but I also knew that critical to my success would be my ability to bring in new clients. And back in the early 80s when I was practicing, potential clients, at least for my firm, were being entertained on Westchester County golf courses and in all-male clubs. In fact, in New York, the University Club, which is a huge club, didn't admit women until 1987. So I was concerned, and I should say, I was only 5'3" in my highest heels. And despite the fact that I bought pinstripe suits from Brooks Brothers and little red bow ties, I knew I didn't look the part of a 80s power partner. So as I was stewing over these issues, my life took an unexpected turn. And that is, my husband was asked to join a group that was opening a DC office for his Wall Street law firm. And one of my firm's clients, Gannett, had decided to move its headquarters to Washington, D.C., and they had an opening for a media lawyer in the law department. The fit was perfect. I took it. We moved in 1985. And as it turned out, Gannett, like my law firm, was booming. So, you know, there's one takeaway: try to join a booming outfit. It's a good thing to do. But with so many daily newspapers and broadcast properties around the country, we were facing a lot of litigation. And within a couple of years, I was made responsible for all of the what we call newsroom law work in the company, which included defending the dozens and dozens of libel suits that we were facing across the country. Now, there was a problem because the communities that we were in didn't have many lawyers who knew anything about libel law, let alone lawyers who were familiar with the recent, or then recent, press freedom decisions out of the Supreme Court, like New York Times versus Sullivan, Richmond newspapers versus Virginia. So our task was really to find and train local counsel. And we wanted aggressive litigators who shared a passion for our journalistic mission and who weren't too tied up with the establishment in their communities that they wouldn't be willing to, buck the system if we asked them to. And sometimes we did. And I hoped that we might be able to find women who fit that bill, because I remembered how much I had been concerned about my ability to attract new business to my firm. So out we went looking for local counsel, and indeed, we did find women, many of them. In the beginning, they were mainly associates, because women partners were rare back then, but I made a point of getting to know them. And at times, I had to pressure the partners to give them more responsibility. I'll just tell one story, which I think is rather telling. One day, I got a call from a partner in California, and he called to say that he was going to have to postpone a hearing on a motion to quash a subpoena, a reporter subpoena. And he said he had a conflict, and he couldn't make the court hearing. And so I said, well, why don't you have the associate who wrote the brief argue the motion? And so we went back and forth, and he to his credit, he said, okay. She went in, she argued beautifully, we won, and I'll just tell you a little bit more about that associate. That associate was Nicole Wong. And Nicole, as you may know, became one of the first employees of Google. And in 2009, there was a cover story of the Sunday New York Times Magazine. She was on the cover to illustrate the story that had been written about what a critical role she played at Google. So yes, she was qualified to argue that motion. I could go on and on with those kinds of stories, but suffice it to say that I made it clear that I not only wanted women on the Gannett account, but I wanted them to have leadership roles. Now, of course, I didn't do this alone. Chuck Tobin, Bill Garcia, Mark Ferris, Jenny Ellert were my partners in crime, particularly Chuck Tobin, who was also First Amendment litigator par excellence and now heads up the practice at Ballard Spahr. But anyway, when he was at Gannett, Chuck would fly around the country, and I think we had dinner last night and you said you had been admitted pro hac vice in 23 states. So when he was out helping our local counsel to defend our lawsuits and arguing motions himself sometimes, he was scouting talent for us too. So. And then I should say, very importantly, I also had the support of the Gannett leadership. When I joined Gannett in 1985, the CEO, Al Newharth, had declared that it was a company priority to advance the careers of women and minorities. This was 1985, way before corporate America had woken up to the importance of diversity. So, there are other people, I could go on and on. I know I'm the last speaker, and so I'm standing between you and the reception. But I will say this: the ABA also played a role. In 1996, when I was elected to chair the Forum on Communications Law, I thought it might be useful to establish a committee or a group to support the women in the forum. We established the Women in Communications Law. And almost 30 years later, I think it's fair to say that we have fostered and promoted a whole generation of media lawyers who are women. And we do this in a variety of ways. One is that we have 3 or 4 social events every year. And at those events, now that the committee consists of many media general counsel and many law firm partners, I think it's fair to say that a fair number of client relationships have been established. So for client development in the media bar, it's goodbye Westchester County golf outings and hello Wickle annual Broadway night. So I said earlier I don't have the solution to all our challenges, but I do know this. Because I made promoting talented women a priority, lawyers like Liz, Katie, and Sue, who you heard on the video, are now at the top of the profession. There are others too. To name just a few, Wiley Ryan co-chair Kathy Kirby, Sidley DC managing partner Kristen Kohler, who's here today. Hi, Kristen. And Paul Hastings managing partner Cherie Smith, and News Media Alliance CEO Danielle Coffey. I know each and every one of them share my enthusiasm for nurturing the talents of women lawyers and have, in turn, promoted others. So I think it was said before, we should all try to pay it forward. But in this season of the Olympic Games, I'm going to get a little corny and say it this way. Let's think of promoting women as carrying torches. I lit torches for the women I worked with. They are doing the same. And looking around this room, I know that many of you have lit many torches too. So here's my suggestion. If everyone in this room can leave with a renewed commitment to finding women whose careers can be advanced, I'm confident that the profession will be a far brighter place. And to echo, perhaps before 2181, equity can be achieved. Thank you again for this very special honor.